Welcome to the Sports on Tap NEO High School Football Show. Be sure to join the conversation by liking us on Facebook and following us on Twitter at SOT Podcast. Use the hashtag SOTHSF. Here are your hosts, Rob Troutman, Josh Jeffy, Ed Dick, and Sean Duffy.
Welcome back to Sports on Tap. It's our Week 4 Ohio High School football coverage. It's our Week 4 recap here on Sports on Tap. I'm Rob Troutman. We have Josh Jeffy, Sean Duffy, Ed Dick, live from Studio J in Brunswick, Ohio. And guys, Week 4 in the books. And,
Done.
In the Southwestern Conference, no real close games to talk of in the Southwestern Conference, which is a little bit rare. But how are your guys' conferences?
One close game in the American Division. I'll tell you all about it coming up later.
Oh, nice tease there.
Very nice. Ed has a nice smile on his face.
Solid.
From his compadre. Good
Solid.
tease.
Yeah.
Yes.
Solid tease.
His
Monty.
cohort, compadre, counterpart,
Colleague.
commander-in-chief.
Commander.
Yes. No, much of the same in the Suburban League National Division. One very good game, a couple of blowouts, and another team that I had some high expectations for, and they continue to roll. So we'll talk about that here in the next segment as well.
Yeah, in the Southwestern Conference, there are a few games that start off really close, and then some teams just, ran away with it. But we'll see who's still undefeated and who's not in the Southwestern Conference. And right now, Josh Jeffy, he covers the Greater Cleveland Conference, folks.
Back in the saddle.
And he's back in the saddle and raring to go right now.
Indeed. Guys, somewhat of an interesting week in the GCC. For all the teams now, this is at least one conference game for them. We're going to start first at Strongsville, where Mentor went in and defeated the Strongsville Mustangs 42-27. Mentor improves to 3-1 overall, 1-0 in the conference. Strongsville drops to 2-2. They are 0-1 in the conference. Now, the first play of the game was called back due to a penalty on Strongsville, so they actually had the ball on their own 1-yard line. And then from there, it was a Johnny Major pass to Nick Adams, 99 yards for the touchdown. So that scores 7-0 for Strongsville. Then Mentor went on a 28-zip run. From there, Strongsville did inch closer to the games. Mentor had leads during this game, 28-7 and 42-13, and both times Strongsville kind of inched their way close to them. Mentor coach Steve Trevisano was not actually happy with his team for allowing Strongsville to get back into this one, as he quoted to Cleveland.com how he didn't like the loudmouth and the Bush League crap that his team put on during that game, led to some personal foul penalties, allowing Strongsville to inch closer. But big plays from a couple of the offensive studs for Mentor. Logan Shea, 10 receptions for 170 yards and a touchdown. Running back Chris Edmond, workhorse-like effort, 123 yards, rushing 4 touchdowns. Strongsville, Johnny Major with a good performance against Mentor, 273 yards passing, 3 touchdowns. But that obviously, again, was not enough as Mentor went on to a 42-27 victory. Mentor will host Brunswick this Friday, while Strongsville will travel to Solon. Next on the list, Week 4 in GCC, Euclid improves to 3-1 with a 34-7 victory over the Medina Bees. Medina drops to 1-3. In this one, Euclid running back Ronald Lee, 23 rushing attempts for 179 yards, 4 touchdowns. Medina this game was pretty close for Medina. They were only trailing 13-7 at the half. But Medina was outscored 21-0 in the second half. Over the past 3 games, Medina has been outscored 58-0 in the second half of the game. So that's been really troublesome for them. The offense was really troublesome also for Medina. Give credit to the Euclid defense. They held Medina to only 122 total yards of offense in this game. The only offensive score for Medina was quarterback Levi Pokersnick with a 20-yard touchdown pass to Chris Kelly, and that led to their only score. Kind of the big thing after the game here, Coach Larry Laird for the Medina Bees almost guaranteed to win next week. He flat out did guarantee a win.
He didn't almost do it. He
Yeah,
certainly did
he
it.
did say, quote, we will win.
Who are they playing next?
They will travel to Shaker Heights.
Wow.
So that's not bulletin board material. I don't know what is.
boy.
So, yes, Medina does travel to Shaker Heights. Euclid will host Elyria. The Solon Comets improved to 3-1 overall with a 33-6 victory over the Elyria Pioneers. Elyria's bad season for them continues. They are now 0-4 on the season. This is pretty much an all-around great effort by the Solon Comets. They got 2 special teams touchdowns and a defensive touchdown in this one. And the defensive effort for Solon, especially on their defensive line and their front 7, they kept to Elyria to negative 25 rushing yards for the game. So, like I said, it wasn't very good for the Pioneers. Elyria did get their 2 scores on 2 field goals, a 32-yarder and a 37-yarder from their kicker, Caleb Lewis. But that's pretty much it for the Pioneers. Their schedule does not get much easier for them as they travel to Euclid in Week 5. Solon will play host to Strongsville, as previously mentioned. Now, there were 2 non-conference games due to a scheduling quirk, I guess you could say, but Brunswick improves to 3-1 on the season with a 7-6 victory over Canada Prep Academy. The defense was the name of the game in this one. Brunswick's only touchdown was by running back Ethan Flanagan. He had a 1-yard score in the second. He finished with 60 yards rushing. For Canada Prep, Tyreek Woodland scored with 5:29 left in the game. The 2-point conversion failed. Now, give props to the defense of Brunswick because Canada Prep had multiple times late in the fourth quarter to go ahead and go ahead with the victory. They did have another opportunity for a touchdown. There was a drop that would have led to a touchdown. And then finally, at the very end of the game, 4 seconds left, they did have the ball. Hail Mary did not lead to anything good for them. And they were not able to put the ball in the end zone or get any points. And Brunswick's defense held strong, and they ended up with the victory 7-6 in this game. Brunswick will continue Greater Cleveland Conference schedule as they will travel to Mentor. Canada Prep will come back to Ohio, take on Akron Ellet this Friday. Ed, your weekly recap as he was there on the sidelines.
Yeah. Well, a couple things here. First off, I don't know if you guys read about this or not, but they forgot their uniforms.
Yes, they used the Brunswick freshman team.
Are you kidding?
They used the freshmen's away jersey. So, if you were none the wiser and you're watching this game, you'll
Brunswick's
see
playing Brunswick.
team. Yes, very much so.
Oh my!
Secondly, I've never seen dudes that big wear jerseys that small. Like these dudes are freaking huge. The 2 guys came out pregame. These are the 2 guys that actually brought their jerseys. These are the biggest dudes I've ever seen in my life. Like it was insane how large these guys were. But at the end of the day, defensively, offensively, it was very tough sledding. Ethan Flanagan, those are 60 very, very hard fought yards. Yards were very tough to come by because you couldn't really get to the outside on them. They were very, very quick, very, very. They had a ton of speed. But we were able to get them up the middle a couple times and very precise routes that got some of our receivers open. So it was a hard fought battle, and the 2-point conversion. What was weird about it was they scored, so presumably they didn't have a kicker. That's why they had to go for 2.
Mm-hmm.
They took a delay of game. On the 2-point conversion
to
get more
which
space.
backs them up. Well, I mean, they didn't do that on purpose. I can tell you that right now.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
And then from there, they actually got the 2-point conversion, but the receiver had pushed off, so that took it back to the 18-yard line. In which case, we were able to intercept the conversion after that. So, we got a little bit lucky there. Special teams were pretty solid. We did have a mishap on we had a missed field goal, which would have given us a 10-0 lead, and the way that game was going, that may have almost sealed the deal at that point because Canada Prep really wasn't moving the ball too well on us. But absolutely credit to the defense for stepping up. We needed them to get stops, and they got them. And the offense did just enough to get to where we needed to go. So it's another hard fought win, and we'll take it. We're 3-1 right now. Which is Brunswick has exceeded the amount of victories they had last year. It took us 4 games to do it, and we're heading into
a tough stretch.
Extremely tough stretch here. As Josh mentioned, we have Mentor. We will be going to Solon right afterwards, and then you wrap up with Elyria, Euclid, Medina, and Strongsville. So the next couple of weeks are going to be real telling for us as we're going up against 2 of the top programs in the state. It's a good or in the Northeast Ohio area, if not the state. This will be a really good litmus test for us to see where we are and how far we need to work if it gets to that point.
Now, quickly before we get back to Josh, how do the points work for that? With Canada Prep, because it seems like they do play a lot of Ohio schools, but what conference are they in? Obviously, how would that work for Brunswick getting points wise with them?
They're not in a conference per se. They play an independent schedule.
Oh, okay.
So the way the state classifies them, they're classified actually as a Division 7 team because they're a small school.
Oh, okay.
So they're class. It's a Division 7 victory for us, so we would get Division 7 points. And then obviously whoever they beat, we would get points based off of who they beat. And right now they're 0-3. So they're gonna go to Ellet here. They're gonna then play Mater D Prep. I don't see them winning that game. Bishop Sullivan, I don't know anything about them. Then they're gonna come back and play St. Ed's in week 7. So they have they got a tough slate here coming up. So for our sake, I hope they get some wins here so they can give us some points. But right now we got Division 7 level 1 points from them.
Gotcha. Back to Josh Jeffy.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Ed, for the commentary there. Because it's some good insight to what happened down on sideline level in the Brunswick game. The final game in the GCC this week, Shaker Heights improved to 3-1 with a 33-14 victory over Collinwood. This game was pretty much all Shaker Heights in this one, 26-6 at half. Not over the top stats in this game. Once again, Jameer Demukes for the Red Raiders led them with 115 yards passing, 3 touchdowns. Kanai Cooper, 79 yards rushing with a touchdown. Shaker will host Medina in what is now a very interesting matchup. Collinwood will travel to East Tech for their game in the Senate League. But again, looking forward to what Medina has. They got 4 key players returning from suspension. None of the guys returning from injuries just quite yet. So they're going to be returning some guys. But, Shaker Heights is going to be ready. They're 3-1. And they did have 1 loss already, and that was a conference loss to Brunswick. So they are 0-1 in the conference. But this is really going to be an interesting game. Now, since we're about halfway through the season, this week is the halfway point. Right now I'm starting to look at Joe Itel. So for the GCC, we're looking at where he is right now. Now, once again, these aren't official. These are unofficial rankings. But
they're official.
They're unofficial, official rankings.
Pretty damn good.
Yeah, they are pretty much to a T. So right now, according to Joe Itel, in Division I, Region 1, Mentor sits at number 6, Solon number 7, Euclid number 9, Strongsville number 11, and Shaker Heights number 12. In Division I, Region 2, Brunswick is number 6, Medina and Elyria round out the bottom at number 17 and number 18, respectively. Now, you have to remember, in both of these regions, the top 8 teams will make the playoffs. So far, right now, there's 3 teams in the Greater Cleveland Conference that, if the playoffs were to start today, would be in the mix. So we're going to be looking at that every week. That's going to be really important because in a conference like the GCC, points matter, and there's a lot of points up for grabs with these teams that play, high Division I, Division II teams. So points are going to be at a premium in this conference, and that's why we really look. JoeItel.com is a great site that pretty much everyone that deals with high school football in Ohio leans on heavily, and he does a great job. He's been doing a great job for many years. So that puts a wrap on the GCC. Next week, all games are conference games. So, and now it's time to get into the nitty-gritty, and this is where you're going to kind of separate, the men from the boys per se, because there's quite a few 3-1 teams in this conference. So we'll see what happens.
Did anything surprise you from Week 4 in the GCC?
Nothing really surprised. I guess the thing that surprises me most is the fact that Larry Laird come out and guaranteed a win.
Yeah, you don't hear that in high school
You
football.
really don't really hear that in high school football, like you said. Now, maybe that's a motivational kind of a ploy to his team, but
to his team that's already decimated with injuries from the start.
And I think for a team like Shaker Heights, who I think has the ability to make a run. And maybe Ed can speak for this a little more because he saw them live last week. I think they got some playmakers, and I think they have the ability to win some games. So why give a team like that motivation, even more motivation than what you need? So that was a pretty big surprise. But as far as the rest of the conference goes, pretty solid, to say the least.
Very good. Job well done. Ed, any last thoughts on the GCC, guys?
Looking forward to getting into the meat of our conference schedule.
Yeah, conference.
We'll see what happens here in the next couple of weeks with Mentor and Solon. Definitely looking forward to this Shaker Heights Medina matchup now.
Absolutely.
Yeah, when you look at that, you wonder. Medina's struggled all year, and I think Josh mentioned it. It's bulletin board material not only for Shaker Heights but for Medina. This is your coach. This is your head coach coming out saying, "Look, the expectation is we have to win this game, and we're going to win this game." A lot of people say, "Well, it's really tough to guarantee a win. You don't know what's going to happen." But to put that mentality into a young man's mind and say, "Look, we're going to win this game. That's how it's going to happen." Sometimes it's as simple as that. I don't care how we do it. I don't care if we pass the ball 100 times, run the ball 100 times. We defensively score. Ed, throws on some jams on his computer. But it's one of those things where sometimes that really does light a fire under a team to perform. Now, again, against a team like Shaker Heights, who's proven that they're not an easy out by any means necessary in this conference. I think it's going to be that's going to be a very interesting game. And again, as Josh mentioned, this is starting to ramp up. The GCC is known, as much as the Southwestern Conference is as a meat grinder. Whoever survives the GCC is not only goes deep into the playoffs, but also usually is at the top of that whatever region they're in. Because again, there's so many points up for grabs in this conference play, and now we're starting to see that and starting to see things shake out a little bit.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens in the GCC as we move forward. Now conference play.